All right, we're rolling. Now the parameters are set up. Let's get into it. And remember, only for your kids. If you're a parent, you're just letting your kids randomly watch the internet. You're a shitty parent. It's Freedom Phil. Like, subscribe. Let's get into this topic. Sometimes I think, for all the advancements I make and how laid back my life is, that it may be a mistake teaching people. Because all most people do is they take the cheesiest, easiest way out. And they screw up a good thing. Where am I going with this? Well, once again, like, subscribe. Let's get into it. Freedom Phil. I think about this when I was thinking about where places I passed through on my travels through Montana. And how there used to be tons of places out there where you could camp right next to the river. Next to all sorts of places in the woods. Now you got to go deeper, further. Basically, you have to go where the derelicts, because I'm going to be, like I've said it before and I'll say it again, most of the people that you see that are out there, like the RV trash, it's one thing if you got an RV and you're a van lifer. A lot of these people are not van lifers. They are literally just people that couldn't afford rent. Like the joke is the drug addicts and junkies have always been among you. You just now notice them because the job they used to work isn't there, or the job they work doesn't pay enough to pay the rent. They used to rent the bungalows. They used to, rent the little trailers or whatever. They're on Section 8. Now, there's a lot of these people that, by the numbers, are out on the streets, whether it's the tents or they get an RV and they go out to the outlands. So it becomes this, like, push and pull of, like, where to shove these people, these excess people. Because, God forbid, we just build more housing in this country, or make, you see this affordable housing where it folds out. It's like not that complicated. We could have housing. We could. It's not that big of a deal. There's lots of ways we could do this. So these people, with really nowhere else to go, they end up living out on the streets. But these are not van lifers in the sense that they view the land like they look at it like, hey, this is a long term. I don't want to leave a bunch of garbage here because I don't want someone to show up and say we can't be there anymore. These are the type of people that, like, by the way, there's down the hill, the neighbors are set up a little shooting spot there. Cool, whatever. But these are not the people that you would want to see in any situation, because here's what they'll do. And this is why I say, should not teach people. They'll go out there and they'll go out and live in the woods, but then they'll do the same stupid shit. Like these are people that are used to garbage cans. These are people that are used to, plumbing and sewers and stuff. These are people that when they think of using, like taking a dump, for instance, the idea of using like a backwoods bidet and a bleach bottle with cut up sock pieces where you can reuse it over and over again. They'd never do this. They're like, oh my God. Ugh. So what ends up happening is that, for instance, the great example is you'll be out in the woods and a bunch of people come party. And it's always the women, by the way. And how can you tell it was a woman? Men don't need toilet paper when they take a piss. How can you tell it was someone taking a piss? There ain't no Shizoli. And they leave all this stuff around. They could take the paper, like reverse a friggin' bag like a dog pot, and take that, even hell with the dark matter, to be honest, if that was there, and just toss it into the bonfire and it's gone. Nope. The attitude is generally, well, that's just there. Nobody cares. That's somebody else's problem. What do I care? Now that I'm done with this situation, what do I care? I got what I wanted out of it. And the next people that show up, be damned. Who cares? And the next people show up at some point, however many days or weeks, and there's toilet paper. On the edge of camp, there's like, oh, that's obviously where all the bitches were pissing. The same thing. You're like, God, kids, stay away from that. Because, disease and all this other crap, potentially. It just puts off a bad image, which leaves a bad taste in people's, memory. And so sooner or later, when you have enough of these people or sewage tanks dumped in the wild, sewage tanks dumped in the wild, like you didn't even bother to dig a fucking hole level of shit, So there's just like, there's clearly a sewage tank drained out in public. If at least if you dug a hole and buried it, we wouldn't know. We wouldn't know. And that's the key thing about it. Well, he's really going on that. He set up like 2 posts and a thing between it to where they could hang a piece of metal. I mean, it's kind of cool. But yeah, that's the entire problem with the situation. They show up, domesticated people, and they ruin good camp spots. You know, they show up on the rivers, and they leave trash. They make a mess. They start a fire. They don't put it out. And then sooner or later, when they realize what I've realized, hey, you know, I can get the bills down to $100 per month or less. What ends up happening is that they're like, oh, why the fuck would I ever go back? And one of the worst offenders in this, because you got like old school woodsmen, outlanders, and all sorts of different types, but it's the Junkietown Jerrys. Once again, like I said before, these people always lived among you. It's just in the recent years, they can't afford that little bungalow. That bungalow might have been bulldozed into the ground. It's gone. You know, the trailer parks, that might be been redeveloped. And they're not good enough to get on Section 8. Maybe they can get a welfare check, like a crazy check, but not a full-on Section 8 situation. There's actually a list for that stuff. So inevitably when they end up in the woods, and they're not conscientious of their surroundings. Sooner or later, and then, oh yeah, this is the crown jewel. I mean, as if the sewage wasn't bad enough. Actually, the crown jewel would be something different, but it's pretty well up there. It's like the king's scepter. They leave their syringes everywhere. By the way, a lot of times that won't even be outlanders. That'll just be junkies that live in town. There's a lot of times they'll have a place they like going to, and they'll shoot up there. And it's just like, this is part of the reason I've said for a long time when it comes to the drugs. I don't know if fentanyl was like manifested through my mind. In the sense, I used to make this joke then. It's like they need to do Operation Raid, or it's basically like that bug spray raid where the fucking bugs would explode. Raid! Except for in this case, it would be meth! Except for it's fentanyl. Like junkie needles all over the place. I think the crown jewel is when they get into a bum war and they're burning down other people's tents, or they're burning down someone's RV. And sometimes that's just asshole rednecks to do that shit. Rednecks or teenagers or something. But that's where it gets to the point where you as a regular outlander, you look around and you're like, how far do I have to go to get away from those people? Because once they show up, sooner or later the cops will be here. And like I did that short ages ago, a month or two ago, passing through Montana, and somebody just left their garbage, like a box full of garbage. It was like clothing and stuff. And I'm like, I don't know how to explain this. If it's clothing, it's clothing enough. You could just drop it at like a thrift store. If it's like small garbage, you could just compress it. And you're at a gas station. It's like I've said often, I compost what I can. The light burnables, I burn them. The heavy plastics, I just cut them up. And then when I go into town, if I can recycle the tin cans, I do. Aluminum cans, you can always recycle them. But I got like after a month of being in the middle of nowhere, I have maybe 2 little bags of garbage. And when I'm in town, another thing, certain things, like for instance, if I buy meat, I immediately take that out of that damn styrofoam packaging and throw it into a Ziploc. You know why? Because it takes seconds to burn a Ziploc. Try burning that styrofoam, it's fucking nasty. But what do you get in the case of the people that come out here? Shit, you get some guy doing a tire fire. And then the outlands are a little more of it's taken away. And mind you, a lot of it would happen inevitably. But the more good tactics these people know, well, they could know the tactics. But a lot of people just take the cheesy, lazy way out. An example of that is the average person living in the cities to begin with. You know, they look at it and they're like, well, the rent costs, $1,200 and then $300 in utilities. That's $1,500. And then, I only make this much. And of course, they got cars and bullshit and credit debt and all this crap. For them, the easy way was the normal way. The normal way is actually the hard way, in my opinion. Even if you're paying off a house, it's still the hard way. You know, if you can't pay cash for it, you're doing it the hard way. You're paying credit, But because everybody's domesticated to do that, that's what they do. Now imagine that out in the woods. And I guess I said, the best campers in the woods are when you go back and you can't even tell they were there. Like I can tell from what I saw. I haven't this spot, it was 2 winters ago when last time I was here before the Cabo disaster. And I was walking around here really getting a look, and I couldn't see any tire tracks. I couldn't see anything. I saw a few pieces of I left a few things here and there. Like there's a little antenna thing over there I left there purposely just to see if anything had moved or changed. Nothing. That's one of the reasons I like this place. It's up on a hill. There's a good shooting spot on yonder. I don't shoot very often. I just figure if I shoot, then I got to go buy more ammo. Like, fuck, I don't want to deal with that. But it's a nice place. And I think about all the nice places I used to visit over in Washington and how most of them have little signs that say daytime camping, no camping, daylight only. You can only be here. So translation, you can sleep during the day, but you better not be caught there at night. Sundown. Or you got to buy your Discovery Pass, $35 a year, which isn't a bad deal if you use it, if you really make your best of it. And that's the thing about it. Now when I go out there, and because of, also you got the drug addicts and shit, you have to think, I don't want to leave anything anywhere. And that even goes for some rednecks, where it's like, they're just like, hey, Cletus, what's over there? What's over there? I always tell people, leave the radio on or something. Get like a little radio, leave it on. Because if people hear sound, they'll be like, maybe there's someone in there, and people don't want to get shot. But you're off, over at the creek, a few blocks away, washing some clothes, taking a bath, gathering some water. And some Junkie Town Jerry rolls up. Hey, what's in there? And this is part of the reason I've said before, and I'll say it again, that the problem in humanity is literally humanity. It is. It's fucking humanity. People are the problem. And while, yes, I like going into town, I like going, like, for instance, food banks or just going to the grocery store, hardware store or whatever, I'll be the first to acknowledge society is generally just a problem. Because, like, for instance, even where there's cougars and bears on the West Coast and other sorts of critters, I've never had an issue with them. Out here, you got some coyotes and cat-sized foxes, some birds and other things. Maybe in the high mountains, there might be some cougars or something. I don't fucking know. Probably. It's America. But I've never had an issue with them. But people, on the other hand, they're an issue. So I don't know. I think to myself, all the techniques, like when I've realized I can do laundry basically for free, I'm already there. I'm like, well, why don't I just wash it in the river? I don't know if I want a lot of people knowing this stuff. I don't think I want you knowing how to, filter water. How you could survive. How that plant's edible and that other plant's edible. I remember my buddy, we were talking about this a long time ago. I said, I thought it's kind of a crappy outlook. But then as you get older, you realize these are the same people that are destroying everything. Why would I want them to know how to survive if everything fell apart? Just saying. And just the same thing with investing. If I was the 1%, after all the shit people talk, after all the nonsense, why would I want those people that literally have blamed me for all of the self-inflicted problems they deal with? Why the fuck would I want to teach them how to get somewhere in life? There's a little bit of philosophy there to think about. Anyhow, Freedom Phil, y'all take it easy. Peace.